I went to law school at St. Louis University in night school. I started in 1971, I believe, and I was appointed in 79 to the bench. As a social worker, I probably had a slightly different idea about, for instance, sentencing. And I think also when it came to dealing with people on the edge. I first started as a municipal judge and doing very small cases in municipal court. In dealing with people who were on the edge, I think my idea was, let's just see how we can make this law work. Having an even temperament and not losing your temper and always keeping the pressure on to get things moving. For instance, in civil cases, you have to keep the pressure on to make things move ahead, but you can't just run roughshod over folks. So you have to be very respectful of the lawyers that come before you. And then when you have defendants in criminal cases, sometimes it's really difficult to have an even temperament. I had a lot of good examples from some of the men that came before me. For instance, Jim Sanders was a person who had some wonderful judicial temperament. He tried to teach all of the younger judges how to be good judges. He always had something to say during our times together at lunchtime or in general term meetings, that kind of thing. Brian Hettenbach, to my mind, is a judge who has very good judicial temperament. Another one was Pat Palumbo. They called Pat Palumbo the priestly judge because he was such a smooth person, but he did have his limits. I remember one time he came to me and asked me if I would handle a particular case. I was in a quandary. I didn't understand why he was coming to me, and he said, I just had these two lawyers in front of me last week. I cannot take them for another week. And I thought, here's a man who knows his limits and he's asking for some help, and I definitely should step in and say yes. If the legislature makes laws, there has to be some way to enforce those laws. And you have to have a judicial branch that will do that job. And if you have a judicial branch that is in bed with the legislature or in bed with the executive, et cetera, you don't have a very even three-part system working. Judges have to be absolutely independent. I remember one case in domestic relations where the family wanted to have joint custody, and it was before joint custody was allowed. And I said to them, I will grant you joint custody, but don't ever come back and try to enforce this in court. And I saw them many years later. I saw the wife many years later. She said it worked out perfectly. She said it was the best decision you ever made. I felt vindicated at that point. There was this case, it was Rodriguez versus Suzuki, and we tried it twice. And the first time it was 3 months, the second time it was 2 months. There were huge verdicts given, and they was overturned by the Supreme Court both times. And mostly I think they were slapping my hands. And then another interesting one was Axl Rose was sued by somebody, and we had Axl Rose in court. That was eventually settled, however. I think that the nonpartisan court plan is a very good idea. It is a very political process to become the judge. It's not unpolitical. However, once you become a judge, it is totally non-political. You never receive any kind of pressure whatsoever. I never received any pressure whatsoever to make any decision based on any political reason once I became a judge. One of the things that we always got advice from in law school, particularly from Professor Immel, he said, young lawyers spend their first week of their law practice causing trouble with all the clerks in the courthouse, and they spend the rest of their practice trying to make up for it. You do not ever want to upset the clerks. The clerks can make your life very, very miserable, whether you're a judge or whether you're a lawyer. Always be respectful and good to the clerks. I did not practice after I left the bench. I did some mediation for a while, and then my volunteer work kind of caught up with me, and I got so involved with the volunteer work that I just kept on doing that, and that's what I'm doing now. But as we went through law school, we suddenly began realizing, well, all the judges are men. They're all men. There are no women. Most of the judges were very supportive of me when I was the only woman sitting in that general term room. I hope I am remembered for being the first woman to kind of break the barrier and become a circuit judge in St. Louis.